Today for math, we are going to talk about patterns on a number grid. And our number grid is another way to kind of say like a number chart, a hundreds chart. You probably saw one of these maybe in your first grade classroom. This is kind of also what we have in the back of our student math journal. So once again, you probably see some negative numbers where it kind of has that dash before a number at the very top before the zero. And we do not have to worry about those right now because we are not going to use those in second grade. So we're going to talk about exploring patterns on the number grid and even talk a little bit about place value. Okay, so with this, what I want you to think about is patterns on the number grid. What do you notice about the number grid? Just take a minute. What do you notice? You will see this number line right here, and we will go over that in just a second. So I'm going to choose red, and I'm going to say, maybe you thought that every other number across the grid is odd. I cannot wait to talk about even and odd numbers. It is always a fun activity. Even and odd numbers going across the grid. Maybe you have noticed that all the numbers in this far right column end in a zero. Just like this. You can see right here as I scroll right like this and make this red line, this far right column, all the numbers end in zero. And we have a special name for the place value that the zero is in. The zero is in the ones place. You're probably even noticing another pattern that we'll talk about. Also, the number grid is like a number line if you cut it apart. So if you look back at our number grid or our hundreds chart, if you cut all of this apart and you stack them up like this, that looks like the hundreds chart, and if you took them apart, you would have a number line. And we know a number line is a great tool for counting, so is a hundreds chart. We're also going to talk about patterns in rows and patterns in columns. And what I think is kind of cool is that rows is one of our vocabulary words. So right here I have another picture of our hundreds chart, and in green I have rows, and in yellow or gold I have columns. So going across in green are our rows. All the numbers going across are rows, and all the numbers, just like, oops, I almost did green, going like this, going down, are our columns. And our rows and our columns have special patterns. Our rows and our columns have special patterns. Our rows, each number gets bigger by 1. And our columns, each number gets bigger or increases by 1/10 as you go down the chart. So let me show you that. You can see, if you remember, I said rows, each number gets bigger by 1. Just one number. And we can see that right here, rows in green. It's getting bigger by one number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It gets bigger by 1, but if you're in the row and if you went backwards, it also just decreases by one number. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Just a one number difference. And in the columns, it goes by tens. It increases by 10 as you go down the chart, but it also decreases by 10. So if you started at 10 up here, I'll highlight it in yellow there, 10, and you went down the column to 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. We just counted by tens. And that is the pattern. Each number gets bigger or increases by 110 as you go down the chart. But also, if you just went right back up the chart, the number would decrease or get smaller by 110. 100, 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. And that same pattern is in every column. If you started at 7 and you went down 17, 27, 37, 47, 57, 67, 77, 87, 97, 107, 117, each number got bigger by 110. And I wonder if you notice that just like earlier when we talked about the zeros all having the same number in the ones place, the same thing. There is a 7 in each ones place as we went down that column. You can also use the hundreds chart or the number grid to count by twos. And I did that in red. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 48, 50, and so on. I wonder if you notice that pattern. You can use the hundreds charts, the hundreds chart, the number grid for patterns. You can use it to count. It's a great tool, just like the number line that we used. You can also use it as a great counting tool. If I start at the number 1 and I count up 6, where do I stop? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I stop at 7. If I start at 8 and count back 2, where do I stop? 1, 2, 6. If I start at 7 and count up 10, where do I stop? I'm at 7 right here. Oops, I kind of colored the 7 there. 7. I could count by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and land on 17. I could do that, but what I really want to remember is the pattern on the hundreds chart of going by tens. when I'm going down this column, the number below is 1/10 bigger. So if I start at 7 and count up 10, I don't have to count by ones. It's 1/10 bigger right below. 17. Each number below is 1/10 bigger. If I start at 15 and count back 5, where do I stop? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I stop at 10. And finally, if I start at 20 and I count up 3, 1, 2, 3, I stop at 23. So you can use the hundreds chart for counting. And something really important to remember when you use the hundreds chart for counting is that you can go across in rows to go increase by ones. You can also go backwards by ones for subtraction. But also, you can count by tens by going down the hundreds chart with the columns. Because each number as you go down the hundreds chart increases by 1/10. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and so on. But you can also count backwards by tens. Because as you go back up the hundreds chart, the numbers decrease by 1/10 in every single column. So I want you to use the hundreds chart in the back of your math journal to notice patterns, practice skip counting, and adding. I know you can do it.